this broke in the news yesterday. Nikita Zaitsev, Maple Leafs defenseman, apparently has demanded's a strong word, but he's requested a trade. And Kyle Dubas has made that clear that he's going to try and respect those wishes. It's worth noting he has $4.5 million per year through 2024. He struggled at times this year. He settled down a little bit when Jake Muzzin became his defensive partner. But what kind of position does Kyle Dubas now find himself in with a player publicly demanding or requesting a trade?
For Dubas, it's a little bit tough when you get that thrown on you from a GM standpoint. It's nice if you kind of come to them. I don't know if he went in, before going to the media and can accommodate a player. Mm-hmm. That would be the most ideal situation rather than coming out in the media. I'm not sure how the story broke. But from a player, you want to?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, but from a player standpoint, yeah, if it's not going well, you don't like who you're playing with, maybe you don't get along with the D coach, something's not right with the head coach. Yeah, you're going to want to change the scenery. You got to remember, playing in Toronto, this is it isn't the easiest place to play, right? So that definitely has a factor as well. And some guys love that attention, they love the pressure, and some guys don't. We've seen that in the history here, this last 10 or 12 years. It's a tough place, and if you're not making the playoffs, you're not winning. This is a really tough market.
And he cited personal reasons.
Well, but early yesterday morning, long before the stories of the trade request, whether it was Elliot Friedman or somebody else that came out and said that the Leafs are going to look at moving him, there was an article, an interview written in Russian, quoting Zaitsev, saying that it was very difficult to play in Toronto. Very difficult to play defense in Toronto. And to me, it was very cryptic that he did not enjoy the spotlight of playing in a difficult scenario in a very difficult town. To the point where he and I'm paraphrasing, he says, it didn't matter what we did, we still weren't very good. We were defrauded, was his word, probably lost in translation. But he said he even cited, everybody wanted Jake Muzzin in town, and when Jake Muzzin came, then they started to get mad at Jake Muzzin. So to me, this is a classic case of a guy not wanting to play in Toronto, not wanting to play under this microscope, in this spotlight. And the Maple Leafs now are put in a tough spot of trying to move him. Some will say that the contract is hard to move, probably more because of the term than anything else. And some will say that this is an attractive contract to move because it's controllable for such a long period of time. And would I be surprised if they move him? No. No. And Kyle said the right things yesterday afternoon, saying that we don't have to move him. He became a valuable member, a top 4 guy, but he's also now trying to sell him. Yeah. He's trying to sell him
as high as you can.
Sell high as you can.
If I'm a team, I think it's a great pickup. You're getting a guy at that number. Maybe the length is maybe a couple years long, but if you're looking for a top 4 guy, maybe if somebody hurt, you want maybe a depth guy. I think he's great to bring in.
If you get the Zaitsev, who was pretty spectacular in his 3 years in the KHL, that's one thing. If you get the Zaitsev, who we saw make some glaring, huge errors, especially in the postseason for Toronto, then that's not a great deal. It's really dependent on getting this guy in a comfortable spot, in my mind.
So much of, and again, this is just me, and Mike's been in the room, and it's more than hockey. It's cultural. When you come from Russia to play in North America, in a different language, on a smaller ice surface, with a different philosophy of how to play the game, how long will it take you?
Yeah.
Some guys, it takes 3 weeks. Ozhiganov, who has played for this team as a Russian coming, he won't be back. He couldn't take it. So the question is I think there's so much cultural issues of tons of players that come over here because they see the money, they see stability, and they come here and say, holy smokes, I don't like it here.
And sometimes you need a mentor, too. Remember Dmitry Yushkevich, one of the all-time great guys? I remember he was mentoring Danny Markov when he came to the Leafs back in the late 90s.
How'd that work?
Well, listen, they had a nice little run in 99.
Sure they did.
But my point is, I think sometimes that helps, right? And we've seen that, you get a young Russian player on Washington Capitals, immediately he's going to gravitate towards Alexander Ovechkin.
It's a lot easier to come into a team. It's almost the same thing kind of when you hear players talk about getting traded and you get traded with a guy from your team. It's almost got the same feeling. you get a little bit of comfort
No,
there,
what,
right?
I was going to say, what is that
Just
feeling?
it's a comfort. I mean, when
Someone you can go talk to?
Familiarity, right?
When I got traded from Phoenix to Pittsburgh, I got traded for $1 US, and that was about it. So I didn't go with anybody, but it's from what guys talk about moving, or when I get up down from the AHL to NHL or vice versa. When you go with a guy, it just becomes a little bit easier. You got a guy to go to dinner with. You got a guy. I mean, you got to remember, for Europeans coming over, there might be a language barrier. You got a guy that can kind of translate for you. You got a guy like Malkin, who his English wasn't great when he first came over, and every time he'd go into a meeting with the coaching staff, you'd have, I believe, you had Gonchar kind of go in. I remember he would go in with them, so you had that guy there. But who do these guys have when they come in? They don't really have anybody. So that's
I
great.
think that's a
It's
huge
finding the
challenge.
fit.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying with Yuskevich and Markov, having that fit, having that mentor.
I'll tell you what, I think that we're seeing issues of that, not just in this one. I think we see it on a constant basis. When you have younger players, 18, 19-year-old players come over, you can't tell me, I know Patrick Laine had a brilliant first year. You can't tell me there isn't some cultural issues for Patrick Laine with not too many Finns on that Winnipeg Jet team. Jesse Puljärvi in Edmonton, I can tell you right now, there were issues because there was not that familiarity and the ability to have a comrade to work with and be around. That's something I think that hockey teams really have to. We talk about the world of analytics and adding departments and this and that. I think there has to be a nurturing program, literally a den mother, a den father, to look and worry about the young players coming into a hockey club.
It's more about having a guy in your corner more than anything. You know, something might not be going right. You have a couple bad games. You can feel a little bit of tension. When you have that guy in your corner there, maybe something gets relayed to you a little bit differently than if he isn't there.
But not only that, Mike, what do you do on the off day? You got 4 of them now, mandatory. You leave the rink. Who are you with? Where do you go? What do you do?
Yeah, that's part of the. Who do you go for dinners with? That's kind of what I mentioned. Yeah, it's having that guy away from the rink as well. It's just as important.
Yes.
I
absolutely.
agree with that.
Absolutely.
Well, it's going to be incumbent on Kyle Dubas to try and find that fit, not just for Zaitsev, but obviously what the return would be and see what they can accumulate there because, and maybe in some respects, they have some good young defensemen in the AHL they're hoping to give that opportunity to next year that will come at a much smaller price tag than $4.5 million. So this could be a win-win, but now the work's on Kyle Dubas to get him out.
That's right.